Okay, I'm going to start recording.
Yeah, please.
Recording in progress.
Did you rearrange them?
I think, okie dokie. Remember, we used to dial popcorn, but now we look at our Apple devices and we know it's 7 o'clock. So welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Directors, Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, and it's 7 p.m. So roll call, please.
Okay, Director Coverdale.
Here.
Director Feldman.
Here.
Director Mueller.
Here.
Vice President Reynolds.
Here.
President Michelson.
Here. You know, the veterans, they celebrated on Monday. Lead us on pledge of allegiance? Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I know we do have a couple veterans in this room, and I thank them for their service. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any public comment or things not on the agenda? If not, we could move forward to, well, maybe Ken, you want to kind of take this one a little bit here? You were here the longest, and you sat alongside. I mean, I probably just the two of us who remember when Peter would attend our meetings.
Mhm.
And he was a character. Okay, you two. Okay, so the three of us remember him sitting up here, and he was, like I said, he was a true character. So thank you.
Yeah, I'd be happy to make a comment.
Please do.
Yeah. The thing that always impressed me so much was when I found out that the original Coastside County Water District was really a series of pipes that were connected by manual control. And that a lot of the system actually had to be operated by driving a truck to a location and opening or closing a valve. And the wildest part about it, of course, is that in the old days, the coast was, much more rural than it is now. And so a lot of the location of these valves wasn't very well tended. And so it was really kind of a mystery to go out there and sort of poke around and try to find the vault and then open up the vault and clear out all the stuff from the gophers and pull the weeds out and, lubricate the device enough to get it to turn. And the amazing thing to me about Teeter was he knew where everything was, absolutely everything. He knew where the pipes were, he knew where the valves were, he knew where the weaknesses were in the system. It predated computerized modeling where we look at pressures in pipes or volumes of flow in pipes. And it was amazing to me because he then could also translate that so incredibly into documents. And so he hand drew most of the things that he used to do. In fact, he was very resistive when it became computerized. And so a lot of that would become an outside service. And it was amazing to me because he would always correct all the errors. He was just so meticulous. And I think that the interesting thing, like all of us, is, we get a little older and we get a little bit grumpier and, it's a little harder to interact with and deal with. And it's a lot of responsibility, I think, being the engineer. But it was wonderful to have him in the room. And the thing I really appreciated was if there was an issue or a problem or something, and he was right there. Teeter, what's going on with this? And it was never, well, let me get back to the plans or I'll get back to you. And he just knew. He was instrumental in the design of Eunice, the water treatment plant. And that at the time was a cutting edge plant. It was, really well beyond what a lot of districts were able or even knowledgeable enough to build. So the thing about him to me was he was such a pioneer. He kind of took a little inherited water district and he really helped to build it into to an extremely reliable, dependable system. I mean, I can't remember, I've only been on the coast since 1977, but I can't think of a single failure in our water system. And so much was designed by him that I feel that the credit has got to be, gosh, how did you know how to make things so dependable? And then as we transitioned into building the Crystal Springs project, he was instrumental in meeting with some of the, Kennedy and Jenks, some of the brightest engineers around. And he could see through things. I mean, hey, why are you guys doing this? It doesn't look like that's the right kind of metal, or, I'm not really sure that's the way that should be put together. And I think that some people consider that sort of like, well, who does this, what does he know? He's a little local guy, and, we're all the big guys from over the hill. But it was amazing how many things he discovered and how many improvements that he made to plans and specifications for this water district. So I don't know how a person could say anything other than, my gosh, thank you for so many years of service. We appreciate it. We're going to miss you. I've complained for years, where's Teeter? We're talking to these engineers. We got these consulting engineers, where's Teeter? I want to make sure he's looking over this. And I remember I could always get that guy on the phone. So many people, it's an answering machine, or you get diverted by some administrative assistant, or, you get banged around. And what I really appreciated was, Jim, I'm looking at this stuff and it just doesn't make any sense to me, and well, have you really read the plans? Have you gone to page 3 and looked at that? Look at that detail I drew over there in the lower left-hand corner. It's like, it was so, what would you say? It was very, felt safe to have Teeter around. And so I, for one, we haven't seen him much, but I'm really going to miss him because he just really did a banger job for this district. And I brought him something to give to him, and I wish he was here. I'd give it to him right now. And it just says that today is the first day of the rest of your life. So.
Thank you. And he did all this with a slide rule. He was a slide rule engineer. He kicking and screaming at the very end. Maybe he used a computer, but all of the things that he designed early in his career were all done with the slide rules. And his level of detail really kept the subcontractors on a straight and narrow. They couldn't come back to us for extras because, like you said, the detail was in the plans, and this is how I expected this, how it's going to be done. There's no upcharging here. So his level of detail was amazing. It's a character to have sitting here at the board table. Just a real genuine person, and really we were very fortunate to have someone of that caliber serve us for so many years. So I really, this resolution doesn't even, like you say, doesn't even begin to do his service justice. Sean, did you sat alongside him too?
Yeah, for many years, and just leaving the house, the 101-year-old former board member wanted to wish him well too, because he worked for him, and he said we all had to listen to him because we were a bunch of farmers. We didn't know what we were doing. So that's from Al Adravino. So Dad wanted me to make sure we got that out there. So thank you.
Yeah, I know. And thank your dad for those words. Yeah. Anyone care to make the motion? Or maybe we should read the resolution first,
Yeah,
and then make the motion.
Let's read the resolution.
Volunteers?
I'll read.
Okay, please.
Is this the full resolution? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, no, the resolution. Here's the presentation.
I'm sorry.
Great.
Resolution number 2024-06. A resolution of the Board of Directors of the Coastside County Water District conveying appreciation to James S. Teeter for his 50 years of dedicated engineering service and releasing him from his professional service agreement dated May 14th, 1974. that appointed Mr. Teeter as district engineer. Whereas James S. Teeter has been an esteemed member of our board since 1974, serving as the district engineer with unwavering dedication and professionalism. And whereas over his 5 decades of service as district engineer, James has been instrumental in the successful planning, design, and execution of numerous major projects that have significantly enhanced our community's infrastructure. And whereas James has played a key role in the design of critical facilities, including the Denniston and Nunes water treatment plants, Denniston and Alves pump station, and Carter Hill number 3, that's a tank, Alves and Miramontes water storage tanks, ensuring that our community has access to reliable and sustainable water resources. And whereas in addition to these major projects, James has designed over 100 distribution pipelines and pipeline replacement projects, consistently improving the efficiency and effectiveness of our water distribution system while providing system redundancy. And whereas James was deeply involved in the Crystal Springs project, where he showcased his exceptional skills in evaluating and preparing from the concept design to permitting, as well as conducting precise and accurate analysis of hydraulic demands. And whereas his tireless commitment to excellence and innovation has not only improved our infrastructure that will serve our community for generations to come, but has also inspired his colleagues and set a high standard for future engineering endeavors. And whereas as James approaches his well-deserved retirement, we wish to formally acknowledge his invaluable contributions to our district and express our heartfelt gratitude for his years of dedicated service. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of Coastside County Water District release James S. Teeter from his professional services agreement dated May 14th, 1974, and approved as part of Resolution 462, and that appointed James district engineer. And be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of Coastside County Water District hereby honor and commend James S. Teeter for his outstanding service and dedication over the past 50 years. We extend our best wishes for his future endeavors and express our deep appreciation for his lasting impact on our community. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to James S. Teeter as a token of our gratitude and admiration. Now we need a vote.
Well, you should move the resolution.
Go ahead.
Motion.
Okay. I'll go ahead and
On a roll, keep
Yeah.
going.
I'll go ahead and make a resolution that I make a
Recommendation.
recommendation that we approve the resolution 2024-06 to the Board of Directors of the Coastside County Water District, conveying appreciation to James S. Teeter for his 50 years of dedicated engineering services and releasing him from his professional services agreement dated May 15th, 1974, that appointed Mr. Teeter as district engineer.
Second.
Awesome. Moved and seconded. Thank you very much. Now we can get to a roll call, please.
Director Coverdale,
Enthusiastically, yes.
Director Feldman,
Yes.
Director Mueller,
Aye.
Vice President Reynolds,
Yes.
President Michelson.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for, I'm sure you appreciate the kind words, so I will be able to convey that to him. I guess, Darren, maybe you can express that to him when you go up and see him and get a smile. That would be awesome. And that military part of it, yes, sir, I like that. Thank you very much. Okay, consent calendar, I believe it was Director Feldman's.
I reviewed the payables and associated financials, and all was in order.
Any directors have anything they'd like to discuss or pull? Otherwise, I entertain a motion to pass it as a whole.
I move we accept the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved in second. Please.
Director Coverdale,
Aye.
Director Feldman,
Yes.
Director Muller,
Aye.
Vice President Reynolds,
Yes.
and President Nice.
Yes. Thank you very much.
I
Okay,
got a quick one there for Steve.
yeah, anyone do any interesting meetings or comments?
Well, on behalf of our HR committee, we did meet recently on November 6th and reviewed some of the information we'll be discussing later in the agenda. And personally, I did complete two of the programs we had to meet 2.5 hour each course we completed, and certificates are here in the office now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We can move into the meat of the meeting. I'm sure that's why we're all really here. General business, please. Public hearing to consider a proposed amendment to the rate and fees schedule to increase water service rates. Mary, please.
Okay, so I'm actually going to turn this over to Jeff to do the introductions for Sanjay Gar has joined us from Water Resource Economics and is here to, we worked with him over this past year to come up with these the recommended rate increases. So he will present, and Jeff, would you like to give a little bit more overview?
Sure. Thank you, Mary, and thank you, Board of Directors. We are here to conduct a public hearing to consider the proposed amendment to the rate and fee schedule to increase water service rates and water shortage rates effective January 20th, 2025, January 19th, 2026, and January 18th, 2027, and also find that the amendments are exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA. In addition to conducting the public hearing tonight, we're also here with a recommendation for the board following this hearing to adopt resolution 2024-07, amending the rate and fee schedule and finding that the amendments are exempt again from CEQA. Just very briefly, background. This process began in November 2023 when this board authorized General Manager Rogren to enter into an agreement with Water Resources Economics, WRE, to conduct a comprehensive water rate study. And since then, we've attached in our staff report our calendar of major milestones, which represented, among other things, opportunities for the public to comment and participate in our process, but also for the board through finance and facility committee meetings and general board workshops to work with Mary and me and Sanjay and his team to understand through use of an interactive financial model that WRE created to be able to assess different combinations of rate increases and capital financing assumptions with a goal toward understanding which would best equip the district to move forward financially with the significant CIP plan that the board approved back in June, but also to understand the impact of various scenarios on our customers. And so we had many meetings, very detailed discussions, and we're able, with the help of WRE, to understand what would happen if we assume this kind of rate increase and that kind of financing assumption. And so the board was able to represent, as you well know, there to get input and feedback on your ideas about what we ought to do with rates and capital financing assumptions. The plan that WRE came up with involvement from us it has 4 major components. There's a water financial plan, a 5-year financial plan, a cost of service analysis, rate design review and comment, and then finally documentation of the process. And that documentation is in the form of the 2024 water rate study that is attachment, or Exhibit A rather, in our staff report. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Sanjay Gar, president and founder of WRE, who will lead us through his team's work that supports our recommendation for the rate increases that we're talking about this evening.
Thank you, Jeffrey, President, board members, and staff of public. My pleasure to be here again to make this presentation about the water rate study. Let's wait a second while I get ready. Take your time. Thank you so much. So we have a presentation today, which you've most likely seen a lot of these slides before, but we'll go through each one of these. And then after the presentation, if you have any questions or comments, definitely let me know. So our agenda for today is to go over a rate study review. How do we do rate studies? What are the things that we take into account, legal environment associated with that? And then get into the financial plan. Financial plan is really about how much revenue we need on an annual basis to fund this enterprise. The water district is a public entity. Revenues that come in stay in this entity to fund water services. It doesn't go to board members, don't get dividends, doesn't go to shareholders, it's a public entity. So the financial plan is for that. It's for the service of water. The next step is the cost of service. That's the allocation of cost to customer class. This is a fee for service, not a tax. Since it's a fee for service, it needs to meet a requirement of proportionality. That's the cost of service. If it was a tax, you could do whatever you want, but it is not. It's a fee for service to provide water service. Then we go to the rate, and then I'll talk about water shortages too. No problem. So we'll go to the next slide, rate study overview. So I think you might have jumped the slide. There you go. Perfect. Thank you so much. So rate study process. So how do we do a rate study? So the first step is we want to identify what are the things that we want to evaluate, look at, change potentially, what are things that make sense in our community. Anytime you do a rate study, there's new opportunities for changing things, slight adjustment. So we want to understand what that was, and we did that some time ago. Second step is a financial plan. That's that model that Jeffrey talked about, where we really ask ourselves, what do we think our future expenditures will be, both operating and capital. One of the things with managing a water system is that it's very capital intensive. Most people don't realize that, but actually there's all this infrastructure to make sure that water is readily available to our house 24/7, 7 days a week. Pressurized, meet those Clean Water Act, there are all these regulatory requirements. So we need to take that into account. How much does it cost to provide this service? Not a commodity, but a service. And how do we deal with future expenditure on capital? It doesn't make sense to issue debt. Then we go to the cost of service. That's that allocation of costs I mentioned. Again, this is not a tax, it's a fee for service. So there needs to be a proportionality. There needs to be a logic with that rate structure. Then we go to rate design, where we ask ourselves what rate structure makes sense for our community while still meeting Prop 218. And then documentation, as Jeffrey mentioned, documentation is a critical part of the study. That's important because of the legal framework associated with rate studies. We need to show the proportionality. We need to show that we're doing our due diligence and making sure that each rates are fair and equitable to each customer. So Prop 218 is the legal framework that we comply with. Prop 218 basically through a series of court cases. First, the voters, us people, we voted for that, we approved that. And then through the court cases, water and wastewater is considered a property related service. And through more court cases, the standard of care has been more and more burdensome for water agencies, to the point where water agencies now need to prove that their rates meet the requirement of Prop 218. There needs to be a documentation and justification for that. And that's why we did the study. Again, proportionality, there has to be this proportional cost. We don't have to make the cost exactly for each customer, right? We don't have to have individualized rates, but we need a proportionality, reasonable. The framework I always like to think of is rates can't be arbitrary and capricious. We can't subsidize different customer class, and these rate studies should be done once every 5 years. Last one was done in 2018. So we've gone through, every time you do a rate study, I always recommend a year, the time you start the meeting to the time you do the public hearing, and that's what we pretty much are doing here. Because it takes time. It takes a lot of time to make sure we do this right and have all the diligence of the board and getting your insight and input on how to make sure these rates are fair and equitable. There's a lot of policy, there's a lot of tension that we had, and it's good. And tension, in this case, sometimes it's considered a negative, but it can be a positive thing because we have a healthy dialogue about what makes sense for our community. So we had the kickoff meeting on December 11th. We had the finance committee where we reviewed it. in April 30th, we did again another board meeting, finance committee, water shortage rates, met with the board. The board received the report on July 9th, and today we're at the public hearing. So this has been known, it's been in the water world agendas about these meetings. So the water report, as mentioned, is part of the administrative record. There's other things, of course, included, but it provides that logic and rationality of hopefully not when you never get sued, but if you do get sued, that would be the report that you show to the judge to show that you met proportionality. It shows the logic and rationality of rate structure. It is long and tedious. I'll be the first to admit that. I have a copy here, double-sided, double page. So, 111 pages. But it shows all the logic. So if someone wanted to take the time and read it, they could understand it. There's that nexus. We show the math. There isn't any black holes. You can just follow along and see what we've done. And the report's been published on the website of the districts in July of 2024. So that's great that you have that information out there. So if anyone wants to read it, they can. Some one of your customers have read it and provide some interesting insight, good insight. So the financial plan. So the financial, one of the things about water that sometimes you don't take for granted, but sometimes customers may take for granted is that there's all this infrastructure, there's all this capital that's needed. And it's challenging because the system, while, the district was established in 1947, it's aging. And a lot of that infrastructure now needs to be replaced. In the past, maybe federal government developers may have provided service for that, but that's now gone, and now ratepayers have to pay for it. The metaphor I always like to use is the old car. You had this really great car, 20 years old, 25 years old. You've done a great job. It's been beautiful, but the tire's old, the engine is leaking, the brakes are soft, and so now we need to start replacing things, and that's expensive, replacing those infrastructure. So what we have is a series of 4 graphs. The first one I'll say is the revenue requirement. Those bars are the actual expenditures that we have. The darker blue and the green color is the operating costs and debt service. And then the line there is the revenues. And then the teal is the capital improvement to keep funding this infrastructure. One of the things you'll notice is that line is going through the bars. So that means we're not meeting all of our expenditures. We're meeting our operating costs, so that's great. We're meeting our debt service, that's good, but we are not being able to fund our capital improvement. So we can't fix the engine of the car. We can't fix the brakes. We can buy the gas and we can change the oil, but we can't fix it. And that's a challenge. And because of that, not having that kind of revenue, the next one is the fund balance. The dotted line is the reserve target. The bars are ending balances. And we basically run out of money in 2028 is what we're projecting. And that's a significant challenge. Of course, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't run out of money. What you would do is just cut your CIP. And what that means is that you're liable for failures. You said you had no failures in the district. Well, this is a good recipe. And we see it in the news. I see it in LADWP, you see all these different agencies who don't do the due diligence and maintain the system. And you see failures and they're catastrophic. You have coverage ratio, you're meeting that. So we don't really need to go into that. And the next one is the capital funding, and we see some unfunded capital. So now, in order to solve this, what we're proposing is an 8% increase each year, and with $8 million debt issuance. There's pros and cons with that. I don't issue debt. I don't involve in debt issuance. I have no skin in debt issuance. I'm a third party, neutral person. So the one thing about debt is that it's cheaper in the short term. It's like anyone, when you're going to buy something, buy a house, buy a car, sometimes it's cheaper in the short term to have it. You don't have the cash, or you can save the cash for other things. But it is more expensive in the long term. You have to pay interest. Also, the thing about debt is that it does help with intergenerational equity, because customers who are showing up tomorrow and the day after, et cetera, will pay that cost to the debt service. So sometimes it makes sense. So we are issuing a debt. The major cause of that debt is the tank line.
2.1 million gallon concrete tank.
Concrete tank that needs to be replaced, and
that will be the new one.
That'll be the new one. Excuse me. So yeah, so that's a significant infrastructure. So that one makes sense, right? Because it's going to benefit people out in the future. So we have that in 2025. You see that blue color right there. And you see the ending balances are slightly above the target, so that's good. You meet your coverage ratio requirement. And we also have the 85%, the Fieldman CIP adjustment, knowing that we can't execute all the CIP each year. So by doing this, we meet that. Now, 8%, as we know, we had an inflationary increase, inflation's down. Some people may be concerned. I read some of the, Mary shared with me some of the protests, and why are we at 8%? Why can't we be like these lower percentages? And the challenge is that water, the infrastructure that we need steel, we need concrete, we need electricity. We're buying water from SFPUC. These are all costs that are much, much higher than inflationary. That's the other challenge. The other one is that infrastructure that's being old, that I mentioned. The second one is new regulatory standards. One of them is the conservation as a way of life. And that is going to demand that we use less water. And one of the challenges is that in the water world, even though we have a lot of this fixed costs, we sell water mainly as a commodity. And so what happens, just mathematically, if people use less water, while it might be good in the short term, sort of ish, it's actually challenging for us as a water agency because we're assuming the sales. And so we have less and less sales, so we have to increase the cost. So one way to solve that is you could increase the fixed charge, but if you increase the fixed charge, then you have affordability concerns. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. So it's this challenge to agency, and this is a challenge that all agencies are facing in California. So cost of service, the next one, as mentioned, should be done every 5 years. Last one, 2018. Whenever you do a cost of service, there's always slight changes. And the reason why is there's two things we take into account. One is the business model of running your utility. So cost change, cost of buying water from SFPUC change, internally changes. There might be new regulatory standards, new systems in place. The other one is customers' behavior characteristics. So we have to look at that too. So it's not just the infrastructure, it's how customers use the system, because it has to be proportional. So it's a snapshot in time, and there's always slight changes. It's normal in our business to do that. We understand we want to try to minimize shock and changes, but at the same time, we need to comply with Prop 218. So one of the main things here is fire services. That's something that we do want to update and change. Fire service, so what we're talking about is fire sprinklers. And we're talking about mainly those individual commercials, town commercial hotels. There are some houses that have that. We want to change that from instead of the lines to actually the capacity. And so as for those of you who are engineers, as the line increases, it's exponential because it's the diameter, it's pi. So that actually increases significantly. So we want to take that into account. So we've updated that to be more reflective of the industry standard. So we go to the water rates. So we have the current charges by meter size. So meter sizes are the capacity of the meter. The way I always like to think of it is like internet. We all have different internet speeds, download speeds, and bigger your some of us pay a lot more, and then they have a lot more download speed. That's the larger meters, and the smaller meters would have less internet capacity. Most single family residential customers are in the 5/8, 3/4 star, some that have 1-inch meters. But most of the residential fall in that category. And then the larger meters are more the irrigation, the hotels, any industries, et cetera, like that. And we have the current and the proposed 3-year charges over here. Then we have the private lines. As I mentioned, those are changing now based on the capacity. So the larger fire lines will be paying more. Again, this doesn't reflect the 3-inch, the 2-inch and above are not residential. These are more the commercial. We have the tiered rates over here. We're maintaining the current tier widths for each of the customer classes. We have that. Some of the things you'll notice is that multifamily slightly decreases in year 1. Again, the cost of service, they're peaking less, so we reflect that. Again, we're not here to social engineer rates to meet certain customer class needs and objective. We're just looking at what's the cost to provide that service. And by doing that, things slightly change. And then we have impact. We have a lot of charts to show you all the impact. We want to be very transparent in this process. We're not here to hide anything. Water rates are a sensitive topic in all communities. It's not a pleasant thing to talk about increasing rates. But we want to make sure everyone understand that. Another way of looking at this is the value of the system, in the sense that each customer, in some sense, is a shareholder of the system. And we're all paying to make sure this value of the system is maintained and that we can pass this critical asset to the future generation. So these are the different usages here. You have the current bill, proposed bill, dollar differences, and percent change. So some customers see more than 8%, some customers see less than 8%. That's the 5/8. This is the 5/8 1-inch meter customers, fire lines that have that. Again, you see the changes here. Again, just want to be transparent with that. And then we have the non-residential, no private lines. And you have all the different customer classes and the percent change. Again, just varies based on the type of customer, how they use the system. Again, it's the proportionality that we did. Now, this with private fire lines, these are a little bit more because for those private lines that have larger meters will pay more. Again, that's a real benefit for large commercial establishments, because they do get a deduction on their insurance by having that. So it is a benefit that they receive. So water shortage rates. So water shortage rates are a scenario, hopefully, that doesn't occur, but unfortunately, it may occur where there's a drought. The district, we've experienced that in the past. We hope we don't have to experience it again, but there is a scenario most likely that will occur sometime in the future where restrictions will be needed. And the idea of this restriction is to maintain the health of the district. One of the challenges is that the district has all these fixed costs. So when people use less water during drought, they still have those infrastructure needs that need to be done. So this provides that infrastructure, the financial mechanism to maintain the system. Private fire services are not included during the drought scenario. So these are the different stages that we have. We have 6 stages. We have the different surcharges on the top graph, and the bottom is the total with the proposed rates. These would go up by 8%, the surcharges each year. Now, one of the things that we want to make sure we understand is that, okay, so we have the surcharge, you asked me to cut back. Well, will I have to pay more? You're asking me to, and that's a sensitive topic, right? We've seen that before in other droughts. So we want to make sure we address that concern. So we go to the next slide. And we want to address that. So the first one is no drought. This person uses 5 units. Their bill would be $106 basically. If there was a drought and they did not reduce their demand, that would be $130. But if they did reduce their demand on stage 2, then it would be $105.28. So basically the same bill. And so what we want to illustrate here is that if you do your part and conserve as the district requests during this time period, the 20% reduction in stage 2, your bill will not increase. And so we also want to make sure this is true in other stages. So we did look at other stages here in stage 3 with a 30% cutback. Again, so if you don't do anything, your bill will increase to $142. But if you did the 30% reduction, then it's at $104.76. That's my presentation. I'm definitely here to answer any questions that the board may have. If you want, we can do that now, or we can do that later.
We can do that later. I think let's listen to board. I've been sitting here for 23 years listening to presentations. This was probably the most clear and concise presentation I've ever had the pleasure of listening to. And I'm not just saying that. I'm really serious. And I hope anybody that has any concerns over our rate increase at least takes the time to watch this film or take a deeper dive into the document that you created. I mean, you really touched on every component here. And thank you.
Well, and I think, Mr. Chair, he mentioned the word value a few times. And not about me, it's about a group I'm involved with, the Citizens FBI Academy. We have to take training. And part of that training by the FBI is good leadership understands value. And that's coming from them, not me. So very important there, that good leadership has to understand value. And this is really put it out
I
there.
have two questions.
Yeah, I don't know, yeah, I mean, if he's still there,
Yeah,
let's
okay.
pepper him with questions. This guy, he's pretty technical. I mean,
No, my questions are actually much more philosophical today. So I was wondering, as an expert on the topic, if you could give us a high altitude review. Some water districts have chosen to take some of their revenue and put it onto a property tax. And could you talk for a minute about the benefits and the liabilities of doing that?
Good question.
It is a good question, but that's not what's on your agenda tonight.
Oh,
Your agenda tonight is about the water rate increase. How you collect your revenues would be a different topic for a different.
oh, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
One expert has spoken, so we'll go with that.
And while I'm speaking, your agenda has the presentations, then it has opening the public hearing. So you could hear from the public, closing the public hearing, and then board comments. You can rearrange that.
I want a few board comments, one round of board comments, then we're gonna go to public.
Okay.
Any other board? Questions, comments? Otherwise, we will go to public. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I hereby open the public hearing. We have any speakers on this particular subject? Please step forward. Thank you. No, you can just be passed. No, please proceed.
I guess you just think about the increases that have happened over the last several years with COVID and that kind of stuff. And so I understand that things are more expensive. I'm retired, so I have a pension and I get 2% raise every year. So when things start to go up 8% every year, then my disposable income decreases pretty quick. So being a public employee, I understand the struggles of budget and trying to make ends meet and keeping things, improving things, not letting them just fall off. But I would hope that you would consider the impact that it has on people who don't have an increase in their income at the same rate that you're asking, especially when the rate for the cost of water has gone up a lot in the last 3 years. And so another 3 years of that. And it's like, well, when does that end? So that's what I'd like to say.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Do we have anyone? Yeah,
I'm asking him to.
remotely?
There's a property owner with a.
There was
He's up in the corner.
property owner.
Look at that.
His hand's up.
You're about to be unmuted.
I've asked him. He has to unmute themselves.
Okay,
Okay,
There we go.
can you hear me?
okay,
Do you hear me? I'm a property owner and
does he have to
the,
identify himself?
Nope. If they want to, they can.
Property owner, the floor is yours.
okay, I'm a property owner in the Coastside County Water District.
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Type in his comments as a comment and then somebody read it if he doesn't have a microphone that works.
Must have.
Because there is a comment on Zoom, there's an ability to put a comment. And perhaps if he typed his or she typed her comment in, then read it to overcome.
His mic.
You can't hear me?
It's just a thought.
You cannot hear me?
Do you know how to open the comments thing?
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
You have to change the security level though.
Oh, maybe.
Is that okay?
Is it just me that can comment when I'm doing it? Oh, I didn't know that.
As long as it's germane to the agenda.
Right.
Yeah. let's look.
Hello?
He's connecting the audience.
He was doing.
Can you
You
hear
can
me?
hear it?
Yeah, I can hear him on my.
Oh, wow.
Really?
You want to sign it into us?
What's that? She can hear?
Can you put it over the PA
Hello?
system?
This is a property owner.
Kathleen can hear it on
I
her.
can bring my laptop in, but I'm not sure about the feedback, so we can try this way.
Yeah, try it.
Thanks, James.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Wonder if-
What if you mute it here?
Yeah.
Mute our mic.
We can't, then everybody else, we're gonna lose.
Yeah, you won't hear anybody.
I don't mind the echo. Just go for it.
Okay,
We just let him to speak. Okay, can you hear us?
yes, I can.
Okay, go ahead, we'll try this.
Okay, I'm a property owner in the Coastside County Water District. And I understand that there's capital improvement projects which are kind of essential for, I guess, the inevitable size event. But there's also fixed income property owners who are gonna see 8% increase on top of an 8% increase on top of an 8% increase each year for the next 3 years if you decide to approve this rate increase tonight. I know, like, operationally, you guys installed the water meter so that people wouldn't have to go and actually read the meter, so you're saving gas and wear and tear on the vehicle. So I don't know if some of those cost savings are reflected in the water rate study. And I also want to mention that the San Francisco Public Utilities, San Francisco Water District, they have a program now where I believe that if you're within the 40% of the low income, you get some type of subsidy if you're late in your bill, or your water won't be shut off, locked at the meter, because water is like an essential service. So that's just what I want the board to consider tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I did pick up the gist of it. A little sci-fi-ish sound quality.
If you turn those echoing, canceling ones off, then we'd have to go back. Changing those would make it better. We just have an issue because of these speakers in here. Can he say something right now?
Disappoints.
Can you say something now?
Yes, hello?
Oh,
wow.
hey.
Somebody
Can you hear me
fixed it.
better?
Yeah, can we hear you? Can you hear us?
Yes, I hear you better without the echo.
Would you mind doing a repeat, please?
Okay. Okay, so basically, I was saying, I'm a property owner in the Coastside County Water District. I understand that there are these capital improvement projects, which are kind of essential for in case there's the next big seismic event. But I also want to say that for the board to consider that these rate increases, it'll be 8% on top of 8% on top of 8%. So each year is 8%. And then so the first year is $108, but the next year is 8% on top of the $108. And then I think on the third year is 8% on top of the previous two 8%. I know that previously you guys have installed like water meters where they don't have to go out and check these water meters, read the water meters every 2 months. So, I mean, there was a cost associated to install those meters, but now you're reaping some type of cost savings for the gas and the time for labor. They don't have to go out and read the meter. So I was just wondering if some of these cost savings are reflected in the water rate study. And then also the San Francisco Water Department, which is part of the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, they have a program where I believe where people within like the 40% of some type of federal poverty level, they'll get assistance for their water bill. And I don't know if the board, I mean, if the water district ever actually shuts off somebody's water and puts a lock on their meter. It actually happened to me one time, not in the district here, but I was renting a room in the house and the landlord didn't pay the water. And one day I came home and said, why isn't the water not on? And then I went out, checked the meter, it was locked. So basically the landlord, he was so busy with I think dental school, he just forgot to pay the bill, or he didn't receive the bill or something. So basically I'm just asking the board to consider this because I wonder what the other options are. Can you raise the rates like 1 year and then at another meeting decide to raise the rates at a subsequent year when you see that you're not getting as much revenue as you expected, or there's like an emergency project or something happened, then you can decide further down to raise the rates, like maybe 8% for 1 year is okay, but this is pretty significant rate increase on top of all the rate increases that we had previously. So that's what I want the board to consider.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments, property owner.
Can I
Thanks.
ask a question? Can I get his name or his address?
So if he wants his comments to be submitted as a formal protest, then he would need to provide his name and address for it to count as a protest. If he just wants to provide comments to the public, it's up to him whether he would like to provide his name and address.
Well, the reason I feel that I'm not providing my address because you need the majority of the property owners to appeal for. So I don't know. So that's why I'm asking the board to consider this, because obviously the majority of property owners are busy with their lives, and there's a lot of rate increases, not just water. A lot of utilities have increased their rates, so it's hitting people.
Thank you. We did hear your comments. Thank you very much for chiming in. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it.
Okay. Do we have?
Somebody named
Oh, we have.
Paul is on the.
Paul.
Well, we should just see if anybody else would like to provide comments that are members of the public, they're welcome to raise their hand and do so
Yeah,
now.
otherwise, we're going to close.
We are in the public hearing.
So we're in.
Then we can make comments.
Paul, did you have a comment? Otherwise, we're going to close public hearings.
Okay, it doesn't look like there's any other comments, so I think the
I think
president could close the public.
Yeah, I
hearing
think
if
we
you'd
could
like.
safely close public hearing. Thank you. Okay. Board comments.
Do you want to go first? Go for it.
Well, I think we're probably all thinking the same way. This was a very thorough project. Thank staff and the professionals out there reading this. And, I think we have to look at the future in our time of leadership of city policy. We have the growth control and the coastal commission supporting. That is opened up now. So the future of the coast, who knows what the state and the local governments are going to be doing in the growth and building for the future. We you know, some of us have grown up with wells and there's still wells in our district and also creeks that are gone dry. And thank goodness for Coastside County Water District and the history of servicing our customers and our professionalism. So I think we have to look very carefully, which we have been doing regarding rate increases, because even solid waste is going up, everything is going up, and fuel costs are going to really be going up. And so I think we're below that level, and we're going to provide a commodity that we need to live with. So I think we have to be fair and say this is very important for the future of the coastside.
Thank you. Any other director comments?
Sure. I think if you look in the board packet and you listen to what Sanjay said about all the meetings that we participated in, my belief is that we really fully vetted all the information that was presented to us. We came up with what we felt would be potential alternatives. We thought about, you know, is there any way to have lower rate increases? In a lot of the board discussion, there was discussion about these rate increases might not even be enough. Shouldn't we go higher? Because one of the things that happens when we don't raise rates is the cost of doing business just gets pushed down the road. And as it gets pushed down the road, then those rate increases have to be much higher. So maybe you push it down to 5%, but that may mean that 2 years from now, we have to go 15 or 20%. So what we've really tried to do in the committee and working with Sanjay and, you know, with staff is look at what is the least we can raise rates over the next 3 years and maintain the cost of doing business and our capital improvement program. And the capital improvement program is something that's grown over the years because capital projects are so much more expensive than they used to be. We had a really wonderful time when contractors were not getting a lot of work. The bids were really low. We got some great projects done at half price. But the problem is it isn't like that anymore. In fact, what's happening is contractors that are competent to build complex projects are harder and harder to find. And you find there's a lot of people running around that'll build projects, but to have them built well and built properly, that's expensive. It's not going to get cheaper going forward, and we know that. And it's sad, but the conclusion that I came to in looking at all the information that I've looked at, I think it's 17 meetings or something like that that I've been involved in. What I wanted to do is try to find a rate that we could kind of let people know in advance and they could count on it. So they could count that they would know it would be 8%, and then it would be 8%, and it would be 8%, and not be afraid of that. And we have the ability to adjust rates going forward, but we really feel like having the security of knowing what the cost of water is going to be is a real advantage. And if I didn't believe the costs that I've seen, and I didn't believe the capital improvement projects that we want to build, I wouldn't be advocating for these rate increases. But I believe these are true numbers. I don't think that there's any place that there's some kind of witchery or, you know, some kind of crystal ball that's, you know, rosier than it needs to be. I don't believe that. In fact, I really hope that these rates are adequate. And I also want to say that one of the comments that came up was, you know, we keep looking at these costs going up for water. Yeah, you do. And the reason why is because all of a sudden we are having to retire steel tank, but we're going to build a tank that's concrete. This thing is going to last so much longer and be so much more dependable. And the reason for the borrowing, a lot of people don't want to borrow money. They would prefer that we raise rates even more. and forego borrowing. But we also concluded that when you build a 50-year project or a 100-year life expectancy project, that should be paid for by future ratepayers. In the past, we got lucky on Crystal Springs. We paid cash. It's unheard of. $23 million. It's unheard of to pay cash for a project on that scale. But it's just not, there's not an avenue to do that right now. It's sad because when we don't sell water, it means that we have to have a little higher rate on selling less water. I personally am an advocate because we've had an abundance of water, use more. That would help our rates tremendously if people use a little more. But we can't really advocate increasing water use because we may very well be starting back into a drought. So I think that one of the things that I hope people walk away with is this wasn't done in 15 minutes on a cocktail napkin. We hired the best consultant that I know in the state of California to help us establish and make sure. And his coworker, Nancy Fawn, is that right, Fawn? Is probably one of the best economic modeling people I've ever encountered. She can push numbers around like you've never seen. And we did that. We spent hours and hours doing that to try to make it as appropriate as we could. So as opposed to getting long-winded, I would just like to say that we put a lot of effort and time, and staff put a huge amount of effort and time. And Sanjay and Nancy put an incredible amount of time into this effort. And it's not to be taken lightly. I think it's, and it may not even be satisfying everybody that sits here on this board. So that's my last comment. I think that it's the right thing to do.
Thank you, Ken. I am one of those advocates for actually a higher rate increase with less borrowing. However, I am absolutely comfortable with this compromise. And I think Sanjay certainly made the case that this is really the right way to go. I'm comfortable with the 8%. I'm comfortable with the borrowing for the concrete tank. So as Ken hit most of the high points here, yeah, this was not done in a cocktail napkin. This was a year, a very public, a very transparent process. And yes, we hired the best that we know of to do the study for us. And I put my faith in this study, and I think if people have any questions, they should take the time to read the study. And I wish they had been here when we were really running the interactive model. It was really a fascinating exercise, if we change it here, how does it affect our, how does it affect our reserves? How much will we have to borrow? If we keep rates at 4 or 6 or 8 or 10. I mean, it was a really great model, a great exercise, and we are bound. And our attorney did interject a little while ago. The law keeps us in check. Prop 218 and our attorney here keeps us in check. This is a very public and open process. We get a water bill too. And I expected it to come in like this big envelope, signed with a quill pen. But we get the very same water bill from San Francisco in the same little bill, in the same little envelope, but it's 6 digits. And they raised our rates 8% this year.
And PG&E.
And PG&E, I don't know, there was one 13%. I know there was another one on top of it. Water is about 8 pounds a gallon. It's very expensive to move. It's very expensive to get over Cahill Ridge when we pump it over from Crystal Springs. Our costs have gone up, and I'm sorry that's but my heart goes out to those on a fixed income, and I think the CPI increases that those on a fixed income getting are really based on an artificial number. I'm sorry, but I truly believe inflation is far higher than that 2 or 3% that people are getting in their CPIs. So my heart goes out to those on fixed incomes. I don't have the answer though. I have a water district to run. I don't have, there are social issues that are far bigger than this district. But I know I am very comfortable with the 8%, and I'm even I'll vote in support of the bonds too. So, thank you. Any other directors?
No, I'll make a comment.
Please.
I think that I want the public to know that the board has worked really hard to cut costs as aggressively and as innovatively as we can put forward. And one of the studies that was a couple of years ago showed that the water tank that is a big feature in our capital improvement is going to save the district $60 million over the life cycle of that tank. So this isn't just spending money to fix stuff that's broken. We're spending that money in a way that saves the district a huge amount of money in the future. And I'm really proud that this district looks very aggressively into the future and what our costs and expenses will be and how we can reduce them. Because I think that troubles this board a lot. It's not about today's bill. It's about what that bill is going to be 10 years from now. And so buying a tank that doesn't need sandblasting and painting every couple of years is an enormous financial savings. By changing how we do our water lines in front of, instead of open trench ditches across Highway 1, we bored underneath it, and it ended up being a fraction of the capital cost, but we used a pipe that doesn't rust, doesn't corrode, and has a life cycle as longer than the pipes we've been using, which rust and corrode. So the district's been really aggressive, and I think it's really important that the public understands that we're very keen to see these savings reflected. And the unfortunate side is, yes, we are looking at a rate increase. The good news is that the board has probably cut that by a half of what it could have been had we not instituted such aggressive cost-saving measures in our work.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Well, only leverage off of what's been said so far. I guess the way I thought about this in the budget process, this was an exhaustive process, and it was an exhausting process. 20 meetings approximately over the last 12 months or 10 months, where everybody's views on the board were made clear. It was painful at times. It was divisive at times. We had different schools of thought. We came together and reached a consensus based on the data that we were able to generate and the information that we were able to receive from our consultant. And we've done this for 15, 20 years now. We've been struggling with this. It never gets easier. It never gets quicker. And it never gets to be any more fun. And so all I can say is, I feel comfortable, and I wish we could do other things that we can't do to help the public, but we can't. And it's hard to apologize for doing the work we've done as well as we could do it, as professionals who could do it, with as much input as we could do it, and to make the decisions we have to make to run the business and to continue to run this business without any failures into the future. And I think all of this is the sum of what we've done to make this budget happen and what we hope to achieve for the public and the community in doing so. So I think, there's no question, but this is the bottom line, in my view. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for your thoughtful thoughts.
I'll raise his hand as we came out of.
Please. Yeah,
You can allow.
yeah.
I mean, you don't have to, but you
Yeah,
certainly can.
Having heard my fellow directors, I feel very, very comfortable. Paul,
Want me to ask him to unmute?
Paul, you want to unmute and we'd be happy to hear your support of our 8% rate increase.
Muted and unmuted.
Paul, do you want to unmute yourself? Okay, going once, going twice.
You asking?
I asked him to, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for at least attending our meeting. You know, it was virtual. So do we have?
Oh,
He's back.
he's back. Okay.
Paul,
Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
I had just one quick question that I had asked before at one time, and that is I've got a picture of the wastewater scan dashboard, which has been very important in giving us advice as to what we should do to protect ourselves. Do we start doing our masks more or not? And I hope that's part of the picture. I know it's
no, this is the water district. That would be a SAM meeting.
okay. I'd just like to see it continued. You're gonna have to have some way of attending that. I value the clean water, understand everything you've been doing to the best of my knowledge. I'm very grateful to have clean, safe water to drink. Having this other part also helps me know, I think I should add more masks in different places. Just add that to the bill, because it protects us. And some people are skeptical of this concept, as you may know coming up. But thank you very much for listening. I appreciate all the work you're doing. I really like that water. I've had you out to test it at one time, and I still trust it. It's great.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for your support. Thank you.
bet.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Number of things that we received from the public. We actually received two letters or two comments that were positive for the first time. We got two
Yes.
affirmative comments on the water increases, and who felt that we were doing the right thing and that we should continue to make this water an always thing and keep the public safe and assured for the future. And about 9 that were, or 10, we got one.
I think
We had 11 as of Friday, we had 11
today.
for testing,
Yeah.
and so forth, and then we got
So
another one.
again, not a significant number, but
12
that gives me some hope that in fact, you know, that there's some commonality in the views of the public with the ways that we dealt
Yeah.
with this.
Historically, we've gotten into the 20s,
Right.
well in the 20s in protest.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's want to move forward with a resolution?
Sure.
Oh,
We
yeah,
could,
and then one more quick comment. I mean, look what the east and the west are going through. I mean, we are very important for the fire world too. That people seem to forget. If you want to shut down Coastside County Water, we won't be able to continue to support the fire services in our area.
Bucket Brigade. I move that we adopt,
Sorry, Director Coverdell, we have a modest correction in the resolution.
Yep.
Lisa's pulling it up now. It has nothing to do with any of the numbers, any of the real contents, just one of our tables had an incorrect date cited. And so we've corrected that. It's reflected in what's on the website now,
Yes.
Lisa, correct? Thank you. So we just wanted to highlight this one modest little thing, which is January 18th, 2027, in this all other customers section of our quantity rate in the resolution. That's the only change.
I told him no more. This was his one annual mistake that he's allowed.
Wow. It's a technical glitch.
I think we're gonna have to have a closed session.
Performance review.
That's right, we don't actually get to meet with Jeffrey.
So it was a technical glitch in the resolution that there was just a repeat of a date and the second column when it should have been the date for the third year. So that's what's been corrected in your resolution. So if somebody would like to make a motion to approve the resolution, you do it as amended.
As a matter.
As amended.
So I move we adopt resolution 2024-07. A resolution of the Board of Directors of Coastside County Water District amending the rate and fee schedule to increase water service rates and water shortage rates, and finding that the amendments are exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, and as amended on page 5 in the second table
Yes,
on the far right column,
yes.
where the date has been corrected to 2027.
January 18th, 2027.
Pretty good memory for no guy. Really old guy.
Okay.
I second
Moved and seconded,
And can I make one more comment?
please.
I really wanted to tell you that the first time I ever met Sanjay, I can remember thinking, oh, who's this guy, man? You know, and he showed up and got all this kind of like snake oil, you know, and he's driving one of those trucks with a little, you know, side approachable shelf. And I'm thinking, who is this guy? I really appreciate the thoroughness and the relationship that we've had with you. I think it's the third time, isn't it?
It's not the truck.
Yeah, yeah. Third time CCWD. I just want to tell you thanks. And I really, it was the most succinct you've ever been.
Yeah, yeah.
So I also appreciated that time frame. But really, I just so much appreciate your work, and please extend that comment to Nancy. And yeah, so thank you very much. Well, Nancy's here, I guess.
No, that's.
That's a
Our
good
Nancy.
one. That's our Nancy. Yeah, please
Yes, I will.
forward that to Nancy. So.
No, I second your comments. Thank you. Lisa, please.
Okay, Director Coverdale,
Aye.
Director Feldman,
Yes.
Director Mueller,
Aye.
Vice President Reynolds,
Yes.
President Michael.
Yes. Okay, that was the end of a long year and countless meetings. Okay, now that we got the money, we're gonna buy a truck.
Jeff's gonna take this.
Oh, Jeff?
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, we're requesting that the board waive, thank you, Sanjay.
Good job. Right, careful.
Waive procedural requirements for sealed competitive bids and authorize the general manager to procure a new Ford F-150 4x4 regular cab truck from Ceremony Ford. Darren did his homework on this one and obtained 3 bids from Ceremony Ford and James Ford and Pound Ford. And we're proposing that we go to Ceremony as they had the lowest bid, lowest price quote. So with respect to our process, we ask that you allow us to continue and purchase from Ceremony Ford.
So moved.
Please do.
Yep.
I think that's the roll call.
I think you have
Who's gonna-
so moved. I didn't hear a second.
Balls.
36-gallon fuel tank, that's, oh, it's not. Not diesel, but.
It's a pickup truck.
All right,
Yeah, all right, sorry, Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Feldman,
Yes.
Director Mueller,
Aye.
Vice President Reynolds,
Yes.
President Michaelson.
yes. Okay, who's gonna walk us down the tree trimming path here?
I will do that. So at the July 2024 Board of Directors meeting, the board awarded the contract to construct our 2.1 million gallon BN concrete tank. So when recently surveying and staking out the tank location, staff and the contractor voiced concerns about the possible impact of some of the eucalyptus trees that could impede the construction of the tank. So we would like to get some of the trees removed as soon as possible before we start any excavation or construction. And with the removal, we'll reduce fire danger during construction, will protect construction workers on scaffolding, and provide a buffer zone from trees and limbs falling. So we've used brush hog tree care for many, many years. Brush hog specializes in removing and disposing of large diameter trees. So given their expertise, staff is requesting that we waive the competitive bidding requirements to sole source the purchase of tree services from brush hog.
I would make a motion to waive the district competitive bidding requirement of resolution 2016-09 and authorize the general manager to award a contract to Brush Hog Tree Care Incorporated for eucalyptus tree removal and trimming at the Carterville tank site for $50,000. And I move on that. And just to forget a second, I have a quick comment. Quick comment, Mr. Chair. That big eucalyptus tree went down on 92 down the bottom of the hill from us the other day. You know, so those trees are an issue, but Caltrans has to work on that down there, but not on our property. But I so move.
Yeah, and it has been moved and seconded, so.
Who seconded it?
Ken,
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear you. Okay, Director Coda,
Aye.
Director Feldman.
Yes.
Director Mullen,
Aye.
Vice President Reynolds,
Yes.
President Michelson.
yes,
Mr.
thank you,
President,
please.
can we back up to the truck for just 1 minute?
Sure.
In reading the truck spec, I didn't see anything about the towing package,
Yeah, it's a standardized package.
but I didn't see it listed.
It is, it's part of a standard. I'd have to go back and look at the packages, but
Okay,
it's part of one of the other packages.
all right, but it's included.
Yes, sir, it's included, yeah.
All right, I bought a truck once and didn't pay attention. And I had to pay a second time for it, so.
And if you look, the integrated brake controller is part of that package, so I'm not sure where else it's stuck.
Yeah. All brake, channel brakes, yeah.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
which is impossible without
Right.
tow package. So they've stuck it in some other package.
Great, I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, no, thanks for the
Yeah,
clarification.
integrated trailer.
Thank you.
Good job.
Well, we'll maybe have a nice PG&E update for us on relative to the Carter Hill.
Want to share your, so we have, Fire and Loretta, who we awarded the construction management services with FEMA staff. And so they are now starting their monthly reports. So so this format may look familiar, but it's similar now with this big project. So in terms of our contract is 480 days. It's close to an $11 million contract with BN Tank. We now on September 13th, we issued the limited notice to proceed. With that, we're able to move forward on some things like the contractor submittals and RFIs and starting to survey and stake. One of the reasons why we have a limited notice to proceed is that we are investigating right now about whether or not we have to relocate PG&E lines. And so we've coordinated with PG&E. We have had multiple parties out there potholing and looking for the lines. So we're, we will tell you next month about our success. We feel pretty good about it, but and Darren has, he's been great. He's been right in the middle of all this, and it's been, and helping to guide the process. So, but we are close, and it could be really good news, but we're close. So we'll report out next month. The other thing we've done, Verizon has relocated their antenna from Tank 1 to their shelter area, but we still have to move it again, but it gets it started in this. And we also, the team met with high school staff. We met with an assistant principal and the athletic department, because we have parties who like to run up that hill. And so we think we're in pretty good shape in terms of doing what we need to do for some PR purposes as well. So we're, as we look ahead, we're, finishing up our potholing investigation of the lines. And we're, looking at, so that the design team is trying to figure out everything with our plans to look at the option of not really relocating the PG&E that big. So we're moving forward, and all good things. These pictures show, well, at the bottom middle picture is kind of a great depiction. If you, and you can look at it in your staff report. It's my favorite picture of this because it really shows how big this tank is going to be. I mean, you're going to have, the exterior, you see those flags and where existing tanks are. So this is going to be a really, really big tank. And so it's kind of exciting to get put together. The other, we had construction meetings and potholing, so that's what the other pictures are. So any questions? And I say Darren is actually a good person to ask too of this.
Any board members have any questions? We're getting closer and we look forward to next month's positive report.
We'll be king of the hill up there pretty soon.
And that is a very famous cross-country course. And I will tell a real brief story here. When Coastal Commission in the 11th hour had the option of appealing our Carter Hill West pipeline, I met Chris Kern from the Coastal Commission at the high school. We tried to, I forget how big the pipeline is coming out of there. It's 24 inches. Yeah, anyhow, so they had the option of appealing it. I met Chris Kern up there and he looked up the hill and he goes, "Oh, I've been here before. I ran the Artichoke Invitational." And suddenly it came down to like half of my high school memories and he didn't appeal our pipeline.
Wow, nice. Nice.
Anyhow, thanks.
President Michelson, before we move on, we do have two members of the public who are online who have their hand raised. They might just be carryovers from the public hearing, but we should probably just pause to check to see if they have any comments on this item.
Property owner and Paul,
I have to ask him to unmute. Sorry.
Yeah, just because they're here and their hands are up, so.
They've been up the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh, but we should
Yeah.
still ask them. If
No,
members of the
I-
public here, we gotta, they have.
No,
the
but I just
opportunity
wanna
to
let you know
comment,
that-
so.
That's the same hand raised from beginning.
Let's just be sure.
Well, the question I had was, we have a lift pump down here, which is really critical because not only do we need to have the water coming in, but then it has to get pumped out. Do you also, part of this budget, handle that, or is that another separate operation? I was just curious.
That's Sam.
yeah, I think again, that's a Sam issue.
Okay,
Sewer authority.
Yeah, sewer authority mid coast.
thank you very much for
It's
it.
not in our purview. Thank you,
But
thank you.
it's really critical. Without it, we're in trouble.
Please bring that up at a SAM board meeting. That'd be great. Thank
I
you.
will.
It is critical. I
Let the
agree.
city know.
Okay, and property owner is not chiming in?
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
thank you.
if you could, members of the public, if you could lower your hand and then raise them if you would want to speak, that would be helpful for us to monitor when you would want to speak.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
Paul did. Good job, Paul.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
we'll let it go. We'll check in for you.
General manager's report.
Okay, two items. We met on November 1st with SMPUC. They held a meeting to address stakeholders on San Mateo County, largely on the coast, to talk about the wet weather coming up. And the status of Philistines Reservoir. So, we had the pleasure of having Steve Ritchie in June with some of the other stakeholders like the Steve Halfman Bay and Sam, and they weren't all aware of that, what was happening up at Philistines Reservoir. So this was an opportunity to hear about that, hear that the reservoir is, it's not going to have the controls to hold back the water, like it's going to be, like the dam's going to be lowered significantly, and then it's just will flow naturally. So there's some concerns, but we're all working, and Darren was on that call as well.
Yeah, so it's, and sorry, Mary, not to correct you, but they're not lowering the dam, they're just opening the spillways.
Yeah.
And not closing them. So it's just a flow through spillway, and I think they said they can get somewhere around 3,900 cubic feet per second out of the spillway.
Wow.
So
How much can they divert to the other side?
that I'm not sure of. And the they did mention that during the times that they need to divert to the other side is the times when it's difficult for them to divert to the other side because of heavy rainfall. And San Mateo Creek is, all you know, probably is just as prone to flooding as anything else, if not worse.
So it's not like a safety valve, then it's.
They did not allude that that would be a very good option for them.
Yeah, no, it will be very, very interesting. In 1982, we had 30 hours of continuous rain. That was the really last big flood. And now with that dam not providing any kind of holdback, it's.
But remember the watershed, like we know that it's not just coming from Pillarcitos Reservoir. You have all the Arroyo
Oh,
de
sure, yeah,
Leon, all the
yeah.
tributaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, you know, it also contributes to that.
So it's been a long time, or well overdue, kind of like that earthquake. But it's gonna be interesting.
If I may, one suggestion, when we have an opportunity to send a congratulations letter from our district to the new mayor of San Francisco, because he will be making the appointment to SFPUC soon, probably. So at least then I'll kind of snoop around in the city too to see if we have any idea who would be up for that directorship.
I think they already chose.
Oh, did they really? I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I could be wrong. But I think they announced.
Well, good to schmooze them.
You know who it is?
No, I.
Yeah, even at the Bosco level, those appointments are, we're very, very, very critical.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The other piece, we had an HR committee meeting, and the HR committee asked that I bring up all our new hires we've had this year. So we had Nick Garcia is at the treatment plant as an operator. We have Miriam Salazar in customer service, who came on board in July. And end of September, Ingrid Anderson as a customer service rep. So all, great hires, and we're excited and wanted to share. I know that some folks haven't come in lately and, and met and been able to meet our new people. So that's great. December, we at our December lunch will honor those who have reached significant milestones, anniversary milestones. So, I think we celebrate anybody who's been over 20 years every year, I think. And we have Sean Donovan's 29 years. So, and then 10 years, Todd Schmidt, 5 years, Darren, and 1 year for Jeff and for Michelle Dudo. So it's, anyway, good things.
Yeah, thank you for acknowledging the employees. I'm really encouraged to see that we got someone coming up in water treatment as our senior water treatment guys are really hitting some real milestones here. T2D2, that's nice. Where did he come from?
He actually was living in the Central Valley. Yeah.
Great, good job. Thank you.
We have operations, which
Darren,
and Darren will help with this. Just run through just a few of the key things. Busy month. We had our annual dredging in early October. Very successful. We also, all the Pillarcitos well cleaning and rehab work was completed. And Darren, do you want to share about that?
That was completed. We got all the wells back up and running on the first, right on time. We're currently pulling back from San Francisco a little bit, taking water, and we're utilizing the wells, so they're doing really well.
What's the total GPM coming out of those wells?
Today?
Yeah.
Today we're a little over 500.
Oh, great.
Great.
So 700 plus 1,000 gallons a day.
Nice.
That's not a significant number.
Oh, that's great.
Other piece, the siphon was completed at Pillarcitos Reservoir, and on October 4th, we started using it at 600 gallons per minute. So we're now back down, but it was, it's been successful. So
Yeah, it's been consistent. We'll be interested to see what their capacity is with both of them running. They have 2 siphons, that's with 1 siphon running. So they did a nice job of installing. It's really, really done nice.
Yeah, it was great to see the graph grow up, the bar graph. I really enjoyed that.
No, it's everything good. And just one more thing, we have finalized our bid documents for Highway 92, and we are officially out to bid right now. And we'll have a pre-construction, a pre-bid meeting, excuse me, on November 19th, and we'll have a bid opening on December 18th. So
And how many people are bidding? Do you know?
I haven't checked the plan holders list lately.
Oh, okay.
yeah, so anyway, well, and we just opened the bidding process.
All right, awesome. That's
Oh.
great, great news. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you. Kathleen, you have?
No general manager? Oh, that you did, okay. Okay. Okay, so making conservation a California way of life. So I promise I'll be brief. I'm not going to go through everything. But basically, the legislation was passed in 2018. The whole rulemaking process didn't end, until just in 2024, late 2024. So I think that kind of tells you the complexity and the scope of this regulation. And if it took that long to come up with how the state was going to implement.
Yeah, did you double check the math here? I've seen some pretty complex equations here. I'm sure you double checked it.
Actually, there's a lot of people who did. That's one of the reasons why it took 5 years. And actually, the state board adopted the resolutions in July, but there had to be so many corrections and typos because you got 43 pages of regulation. You're gonna.
And Sanjay did touch on it. That's really why I was so impressed with his presentation. The cost of this kind of regulation. Look at this. Somebody's paying for this. This is some pretty complex stuff here that the government comes up with and imposes on water districts. So this is a real component of the cost of water.
Yes, moving forward, it'll be it will have an impact on urban water retailers across
Absolutely. Thank you.
So basically, this regulation creates what they're referred to as an urban water use objective. Sometimes they're referring to it as a water budget, and it has different components that make up the objective, and they break it down into the indoor residential water budget, your outdoor residential water budget, your commercial, industrial, institutional outdoor water budget. And then associated with that are performance measures for the CII sector, the commercial, industrial, and institutional. And then you have your water loss budget. So we've been doing water loss audits and getting them validating, submitting them every year. But now there's a standard associated with that we'll need to meet every year. And then there are adjustments and variances that can apply year to year. Like let's say we had a huge wildfire in the area and we had to use our water to help prevent it from reaching the urban areas. We could get an adjustment for that water as a one-time thing. So there are those considerations. So the indoor residential water budget, that component of it is pretty simple. It's your population multiplied by the standard. Within the standards, most of the standards in this regulation change over the next decade. So it started out at 55 gallons per day per capita. And then in 2025, it goes to 47 gallons per day per capita. And We're lucky that our residential water use is very low, and so we're on track to meet the indoor residential as of now. Then there's the outdoor residential budget. So the state, back in like 2018, did a aerial survey of our service area, all over every urban retailer service area, provided us with a shapefile, a GIS file that showed all the residential landscaping and came up with the formula for a budget for that. And the first time we reported on it was actually January 1st, 2024, and we complied with that budget. So they provide us with the effective precipitation, they provide us with the ETO, the evapotranspiration to plug into the formula. And so I think we're on track, you know, to meet that. So that's good. That's a good news. Then it gets a little more complicated with the commercial, industrial, and institutional irrigation. We still don't have the measurements for that, but it's expected to be like early next year. First quarter, I expect to get that. And that's going to take a lot of vetting because that's a much more complicated set of data that, and I'll have to try to associate those landscapes with what meters are feeding them. And then we have more complications because some of those, you know, I have to make sure it's not irrigated with the well if I can't find a meter for it. So that's going to take a lot more drilling down and spending time with than the residential landscape did. Yes, probably.
All of this is new stuff, sort of.
Yes, it's all.
Is this on top of all the stuff you do already?
Yeah.
With the water budgets and other things? Is this an additive new opportunity?
Yes.
I mean, I read through this thing and it's like.
Yeah. The good news is.
What do we have to do? And who do we have to look to help? Like for you to do all of this? How do we get the support we need? And from whom do we get it to help?
That's the $1 million question.
No, really.
So I have to come up with a compliance plan. And in that compliance plan, I'm gonna have to figure out, I need the assistance of this type of consultant.
Okay.
At, you know, this, or,
right.
You know, in this regulation, they give you choices, like, the sooner you comply with something, the less onerous it is.
Yeah, sure.
But you have to balance that with, can I meet the deadlines and stuff?
Right. No,
So, yeah, so that is, I still haven't quite come up with the compliance plan yet.
But this will indeed cost
Oh,
additional
absolutely.
funding of
Yeah.
some sort to help.
Yeah, but
to
Trump's
do-
not gonna give it to California because Newsom's after him already.
Well, I-
No.
All right.
Gotta get zero
I
for
just,
water
again,
people.
we're trying to tell you that, I mean, I'm trying to, that I'm supportive of providing whatever support you need
Thank
to
you.
do this, and I know the board will as well, because this is like, you know, this keeps coming, it keeps coming over the fence,
Yeah,
it
thanks.
never stops, and we need to.
No, I appreciate
I don't-
you're
I don't
pointing
mean
this
to-
out, because I think really where you're going is we may need another position here to
I don't
keep
know,
up with
that
regulatory
I need to know
compliance.
what we need to be able to deal with all this, and it isn't all gonna be on your back, because there's no way.
No,
with all
there's no
this.
way I could do it all.
You go to high school,
So that's what I'm asking.
taking engineering courses.
So, all right.
Landscape.
I made my point, just show you that we hear you, I hear you, and I want you to understand that we're here to help,
Thank you.
however that means.
Thank you.
No,
So, I'll just briefly, there's another, it's not, I mentioned it in the staff report, there's a regulation that bans potable water for non-functional turf. And then defining non-functional turf is challenging, but it's a separate regulation, but they strongly encourage you to consider it while you're figuring out your compliance plan for the making, California water efficient. So So I did include that. We'll have, it'll involve like updating our ordinances, so there will be, I will need Patrick's assistant on this. There's a lot of moving parts and we just have to kind of figure out what the plan is. I've got to figure out how to collect the data that needs to be submitted to the state, make sure I can retrieve it.
Oh, I feel your pain.
It's available.
I
And it's available, so.
I read it and I started to really feel beaten up.
Oh, yeah, no, this is, I will cynically call this the vilification of water use in the state of California.
Urban.
This is where we're
I
going.
think it's called,
It will be
call it additional requirements for us to meet. But we have to figure out how we're gonna be able to meet them. That's all. I'm reasonable about that. I just need to know.
You
what I
gotta
need to
convince
do.
them we're farmers and none of this applies.
Well, then I have a whole other set of,
Yeah, but it's much more relaxed, isn't it?
I don't know, I haven't read that. The agriculture has their own other set of.
Well, Patrick, you might need to reel us in here. I think we're all gonna.
No,
We should call it a night.
Yeah, we'll probably.
You're at least on an agenda item. I said you're at least on an agenda item.
Thank you, Kathleen, for being the bearer of bad news and we. Oh, yeah, this is our future. Huh?
Just when you think you're.
I don't know, the next generation of board members can deal, as we age out and term out, the next generation of board members can deal with it.
Does it make you want to be part of the water police?
I'm too old.
Oh, my God, Jack, yeah, we're issuing, instead of work boots, they're gonna get jack boots.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, they got some money to expand San Luis Reservoir.
Well, look.
Director agenda item. Next item on the agenda.
Go home, but.
Hearing none. Thank you all very much for a lively meeting.
Staff did a great job.
Good job.
All of you.
Not enough time.
I gotta go to bed.
Recording stopped.
7 o'clock.
Well, that's